What if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs didn't hit Earth? If it hadn't hit, they might still be alive today. And if their reign continued, mammals might have remained small. That means there might not be any humans either. But before we discuss what the world would look like if the dinosaurs never disappeared, we first need to go back to the day that suddenly changed the history of life on Earth. About 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid struck the part of Earth now known as the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. It is estimated to have been about 10 to 15 kilometers wide. It was larger than many mountains and was traveling extremely fast before it hit the planet. According to a study published in Nature, the impact happened during spring in the northern hemisphere. Scientists discovered this after conducting an analysis. The fossils of fish that died during the Great Disaster have marks on their bones that are like the growth rings of a tree. These showed what season they died. When the asteroid hit, it didn't just pierce the ground. It also created a crater that was almost 200 kilometers wide. In just a few minutes, a huge amount of rock and seawater melted, evaporated, and was thrown upward. The heat near the impact site was enough to burn and kill almost any life around it. There were also massive earthquakes and tsunamis. In areas near the Gulf of Mexico, the gigantic wave arrived. Hot rocks and mud were still falling from the sky. But the initial explosion was not the main reason for the disappearance of so many species. The bigger problem was the exact location where the asteroid hit. The shallow seafloor in Yucatan had many rocks containing sulfur. When the asteroid hit it, a huge amount of dust, debris, and sulfur compounds rose into the atmosphere. These spread all over the world and blocked the sunlight. It was as if the planet was covered with a thick curtain. Because of the lack of sunlight, the climate cooled rapidly. The photosynthesis of many plants and small organisms in the sea stopped or weakened. When these disappear, the animals that depend on them also lose their food. Because of this, the food chain collapsed next. Many plants died. The herbivores followed. After that, the large predators also lost their food source. It is estimated that about 3/4 of all species on Earth disappeared. This includes all non-avian dinosaurs. Despite this, only the birds, which are also part of the dinosaur family, survived and life continued up to the present. In fact, we still have traces of this event. In different parts of the world, there are thin layers of rock with a high amount of iridium. Iridium is rare. Compared with Earth's surface, it is more commonly found in some asteroids. This layer is one of the strongest pieces of evidence that a large object from space hit the planet at that time. But there's an important question. What if the asteroid hit somewhere else? There are studies that say the impact was so great because it hit an area with a lot of sulfur and carbon-rich rocks. If it had hit a place with less of this material, there might have been fewer particles released. In the atmosphere, the damage could still have been severe, but it might not have brought down the entire ecosystem of the planet. This doesn't mean that all the dinosaurs would have definitely survived if it had hit the deep ocean. The asteroid was still enormous and would definitely have caused massive tsunamis, earthquakes, and climate changes. But it's possible that fewer would have died. And if enough dinosaurs survived, they could have multiplied again and remained the dominant animals on land. But what would happen if some dinosaurs survived and made it to our time today? Before we find that out, we first need to see what the world looked like before the disaster. In fact, back then, the world wasn't just a planet full of volcanoes, rocks, and smoke. By the end of the Cretaceous period, Earth was hotter than it is today. There were no large permanent ice caps at the poles. The sea level was also higher. That's why many parts of the continents were covered by shallow seas. North America also looked very different from how it does on the map today. A large sea once divided it into two parts. Around it were rivers, swamps, coastal plains, and vast forests. There were also dinosaurs in almost every type of environment. There were small dinosaurs the size of chickens. There were fast predators. There were dinosaurs with beaks, horns, armor, and long necks. And there were species that were even heavier than some modern elephants. One of the most important places that gives us a clear picture of this era is the Hell Creek Formation. It is a vast rock formation found in parts of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. The rocks here were formed during the late part of the Cretaceous period, approximately 66 to 68 million years ago. Many fossils here come from the very last period before the asteroid struck. Some of the most famous dinosaurs in history lived here. This includes the Tyrannosaurus rex. An adult T-Rex could reach about 12 meters in length. It had a massive head, thick bones, powerful jaws, and sharp teeth that could crush flesh and bone. Strength wasn't its only weapon. The T-Rex's eyes faced forward. Because of this, both of its eyes could see the same target from different angles. This helped it estimate the distance of an animal while hunting. According to Ken Stevens' research, it's possible that the T-Rex had extremely sharp vision and a wider binocular field than many modern predators. But the exact range and clarity of its vision are only estimates based on the shape of its skull and comparisons with living animals. This means that what is often shown in movies, that it can't see you if you don't move, is not true. There's a big possibility that it could clearly see a running animal and even a standing person. But the animals it chased weren't easy prey either. One of the largest herbivores in the area was the Triceratops. It could reach almost 9 meters in length. It had a large bony frill at the back of its head and 3 horns that could be used against predators. It wasn't just slow, easy prey for the T-Rex. It was a heavy and dangerous animal that could fight back. In that world, every large predator was surrounded by prey that also had their own defenses. Some had horns, others had armor, some had speed, strength, or moved in groups. This was the world that suddenly disappeared. But if the asteroid had missed, if it hadn't hit the sulfur-rich part of the Yucatan, the struggle might have continued for millions more years. And from there, it's possible that Earth could have become a world that never belonged to humans. Even so, in a world where the dinosaurs never disappeared, it wasn't just Tyrannosaurus rex that continued to reign. There are still more large herbivores, especially the Triceratops. In some parts of the Hell Creek Formation, this is one of the most commonly found large dinosaurs. This means that there were probably a lot of them in the plains and forests of North America. But we don't know if they formed huge herds like modern bison. It's hard to know the exact behavior of an animal using only fossils. What is clear is that the Triceratops was not easy to approach. It could reach almost 9 meters in length and weigh several tons. It had 2 long horns above its eyes, a shorter horn on its nose, and a large, tough frill at the back of its head. If a T-Rex tried to attack it, it wouldn't be certain that the predator would win. One wrong move and the horn could hit the attacker's body. Along with Triceratops was Edmontosaurus, a large hadrosaur or duck-billed dinosaur. Its entire mouth doesn't really look like a duck's bill, only the front part is wide. Inside its jaw are hundreds of teeth lined up side by side and continuously replaced as they wear down. It's like it has its own natural grinding machine. It uses its teeth to crush leaves, branches, and other tough plants. Because of this, it's very good at eating many types of vegetation. In the sky, there were also pterosaurs. It's important to clarify that pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. They are flying reptiles that are closely related to dinosaurs, but they belong to a different group. They lived alongside dinosaurs for millions of years. One of the largest was Quetzalcoatlus. Its wingspan is estimated to reach almost 10 to 11 meters. When standing, it could be almost as tall as a giraffe. But because its bones are thin and light, it is lighter than it appears. Despite being such a large animal, it wasn't just a giant bird. It didn't have feathered wings. Its wings were made of a thin but strong membrane attached to its very long fourth finger. It possibly searched for small animals on the ground, similar to how large storks walk and look for food today. But many aspects of its life are still uncertain because only a limited number of fossils have been found. Underneath all these giants, mammals were already present. They didn't just suddenly appear after the dinosaurs disappeared. The two groups lived together for more than 150 million years. Most mammals during the Cretaceous period were small. Many were only as big as a rat, mouse, or a small cat. There were also some that were bigger, like Mammals, which could reach the size of a badger. They didn't just eat insects either. There's even a fossil showing a small dinosaur inside the stomach of a Mammals. This means that ancient mammals were not weak or useless. Their problem was that many niches were already occupied by dinosaurs. When a large herbivore was needed, there were already hadrosaurs and horned dinosaurs. When a large predator was needed, there were theropods. In the sea, there were large marine reptiles. In the sky, there were birds and pterosaurs, so it was safer for many mammals to remain hidden. They could easily hide in burrows, trees, rocks, and thick vegetation. Many of them were also possibly active at night when the large dinosaurs were less active. This is where we need to correct an old belief. Dinosaurs did not disappear because they were weak, slow, or unable to adapt. They were also not simply giant reptiles, just waiting to be replaced by smarter mammals. In fact, dinosaurs were extremely successful. They ruled different parts of the world for over 160 million years. They had small hunters, armored herbivores, long-necked giants, horned dinosaurs, and species with feathers. Their bodies and ways of living were also not the same. Some theropods and sauropods had breathing systems similar to those of birds. They had air sacs connected to their lungs that also extended into some of their bones. Because of this, air flowed efficiently through their bodies. The air sacs also helped lighten their large bones. This is one of the reasons why some sauropods were able to have such long necks and massive bodies. But that doesn't mean all dinosaurs had the same breathing system. The evidence for this is clearer in pteropods and sauropods than in other groups. Many dinosaurs also grew quickly. They laid eggs, so the mother didn't have to carry the growing offspring inside her body for a long time. They could also lay many eggs, even if not all of the offspring would survive to adulthood. Meanwhile, large mammals usually have fewer offspring. Pregnancy and caring for each young also take a long time. So if the asteroid hadn't hit, there's no guarantee that mammals would have immediately replaced the dinosaurs. But even if they survived, it doesn't mean that Earth would stay the same. The continents would continue to move. The climate would continue to change. There would be new mountains, seas, plants, and ecosystems forming. Antarctica would gradually separate from South America. A passage for cold water around Antarctica opened up. Over time, this helped separate the continent from the warm ocean currents. Large ice formations began to form in Antarctica. The Himalayas also continued to rise due to the collision of the Indian Plate and the Eurasian Plate. As rain weathers and breaks down the new rocks, there are chemical reactions that help remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Over millions of years, many parts of the world gradually became colder and drier. This would be a big challenge for dinosaurs that were used to a warmer climate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they would all die right away. There were already dinosaurs living in cold and high-latitude areas even before the asteroid hit. Dinosaur fossils have been found in places that stayed dark for long periods during winter. It's possible that some had thick fur or feather-like coverings to stay warm. Others might have migrated when the seasons changed. It's also possible that some species slowed down their movements during cold weather. If their evolution continued, it's likely that new dinosaurs would have emerged that were better suited to cold and dry climates. But we can't draw exactly what they would look like. For example, there could have been small feathered dinosaurs that were good at climbing trees. They could have eaten fruits, seeds, insects, and small animals. There were already small theropods with light bodies, long arms, sharp eyesight, and feathers. But it's just speculation if they would look like monkeys or have hands like primates. Evolution doesn't plan to go in a single direction. It depends on things like food. Enemies, diseases, and opportunities also play a big role. Plants will also have a significant impact. Flowering plants were already spreading before the asteroid hit. Many of them use flowers to attract pollinators and fruits to spread their seeds. When an animal eats the fruit, it can carry the seed away from the parent plant. Then, a new plant can grow in another place. Evidence shows grass existed during the dinosaurs' time, as traces were found in fossilized dinosaur dung. But the vast grasslands we see today only spread much later. If the dinosaurs were still alive, they would have had to adapt to changes in their food. Species that are only used to eating one type of plant might die out. Those that can eat a variety of plants have a better chance of surviving. There could be a new type of hadrosaur with stronger teeth. It's also possible that smaller and more resilient ones could appear. When fast-horned dinosaurs that can run in open grasslands appear, predators will have to follow their prey. When the herbivore becomes faster, the hunter also needs to become faster. When the prey becomes smaller, some predators might also become smaller. It doesn't mean that everything will just keep getting bigger and bigger. Sometimes, having a smaller body is more advantageous. You need less food, it's easier to hide, and you can reproduce faster. Around 56 million years ago, they will face another big change. This is called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. In a short period of time, by geological standards, a lot of carbon entered the atmosphere and oceans. The average temperature of the world rose by several degrees. In actual history, forests, seas, and the habitats of many animals changed. Some species moved to new places, became smaller, or disappeared. If the non-avian dinosaurs were still around, they would also face the same problem. Some tropical regions might become too hot for large animals. They would need to move north or south, look for water, or be active during the cooler parts of the day. It's also not certain that they could handle the heat better than mammals. Large bodies heat up slowly but also cool down slowly. When the surroundings are too hot, a giant animal might have difficulty releasing heat from its body. Small feathered dinosaurs, on the other hand, could use their feathers as protection against the cold. But in extreme heat, they also needed a way to avoid overheating. This means some dinosaurs would survive, but others would disappear. That's how evolution works. It doesn't save the entire group. The ones that survive are the species with traits suited to the new environment. In the ocean, it's harder to predict what will happen. If mosasaurs and plesiosaurs survived the asteroid, they could have continued as large marine predators. Mosasaurs are not marine dinosaurs. They are large sea lizards that are closely related to snakes and monitor lizards. Some of them exceeded 10 meters in length and hunted fish, turtles, ammonites, and other marine reptiles. The plesiosaur, on the other hand, had a broad body and 4 large flippers. Some species had very long necks, while others had larger heads and shorter necks. But it's not certain that they would remain dominant. The temperature of the sea, water levels, ocean currents, and the amount of food would also change. If their prey disappeared, they could also vanish even without an asteroid. If they had continued, whales, dolphins, and seals might not have had the same opportunity to grow and multiply. Their mammal ancestors might have remained small and close to the shore because the best spots in the ocean were already occupied by marine reptiles. In the sky, pterosaurs would have competed with the increasing number of birds. And to be clear, both birds and pterosaurs could fly, but they are not the same group. Birds are the true living dinosaurs. Pterosaurs are a separate type of reptile. Smaller birds might have been better at making quick turns in the forest. Large pterosaurs, on the other hand, might have remained skilled at flying over the sea in open areas. Over time, they would share the sky. But the most important question isn't what will happen to the giant dinosaurs. The question is whether there will still be room left for mammals. Because as the planet continues to change, there is a small group of mammals that can still climb trees, grasp branches, and rely on sharper vision. From that group, primates may emerge. But in a world still full of dinosaurs, it's not certain that they would become big, powerful, or intelligent like humans. It's possible that they would remain small creatures hiding up in the trees. Meanwhile, below, the true kings of the planet would continue to roam. Nevertheless, as the Earth gets colder, the appearance of the planet also gradually changes. Around 34 million years ago, large ice sheets began to form in Antarctica. The world's temperature dropped and many forests shrank. In some places, dense forests were replaced by more open plains and grasslands. If dinosaurs were still alive back then, they would also have to adapt. In the forests, it was easy to hide among the trees and plants. But in the open plains, a large animal could be seen from far away. So speed, sharp eyesight, and living in groups would become important. It's possible that some herbivores would become lighter and faster. Others might gather in large herds, making it easier to spot predators. The same thing happened to many mammals in real history. As the open plains expanded, more animals that could run fast appeared, like ancient horses and antelopes. But in this alternate world, it's the dinosaurs that will be under the same pressure. That doesn't mean they'll become exactly like horses, deer, or cows, but they might develop similar traits because they have to face the same problems. If you need to escape from a predator on the open plains, having long legs and a light body is useful. If you need to keep watch in many directions, being in a large group is useful. And if you need to chase fast prey, you also need to be fast. One of the biggest changes they will face is the expansion of grasslands. There was already grass during the time of the dinosaurs, but grasslands became more widespread in the later parts of the Cenozoic era. The cooling and drying of the climate, along with changes in the amount of carbon dioxide, helped reduce forests and increase open habitats. Grasslands did not spread across the world at the same time. The timing of their expansion varied depending on the location. Grass may look like a simple plant, but it's very hard to compete with. Unlike many plants that grow from the tip, grass grows from near the base. So even if its top is eaten, stepped on, or cut, it can grow back again. With a microscope, you can also see tiny particles in many grasses called phytoliths. These are made of silica and add to the roughness of the plant. When an animal eats grass every day, its teeth wear down quickly, like chewing on rough material over and over again. In actual history, many grazing mammals developed high-crowned, durable teeth. Some, on the other hand, continuously replace or regrow parts of their teeth. Some dinosaurs already had an early version of this. Hadrosaurs already had a dental battery. Hundreds of teeth were packed together inside their jaws, and new teeth would replace the ones that got worn down. So if their evolution continued, they might have become very good at eating grass and other tough plants. The relatives of Triceratops might also have changed. Their heads might have become lower so they could eat from the ground more easily. Their beaks might also have become wider so they could cut more grass with each bite. Their frill might have become smaller if it was no longer needed, or it could have stayed for display, defense, or to recognize their own kind. But their exact appearance is just speculation. We can't say for sure that there would be a grass-eating Triceratops. What we can say is that there is strong pressure for the body and teeth of any herbivore living in the grassland to change. Along with the changes in prey, the predators will also change. The large T-Rex is excellent as a heavy and extremely powerful hunter. But in the wide plains, it's easy to spot a predator as tall as a house. The prey could possibly escape before it even gets close. If their lineage continued, some tyrannosaurs might have become smaller, lighter, and faster. It's possible that their legs would become longer, and the overly heavy parts of their heads would become smaller. But there's no evidence that says they would definitely become pack hunters. There are some fossil sites that show that some tyrannosaurs may have gathered together, but that's not enough to prove that they hunted in an organized way like wolves. They may have just gathered at the same food source, passed through the same place, or died at the same time. So group hunting is possible, but it's not guaranteed to happen. It's the same with dromaeosaurs, the group of feathered predators often called raptors. They're not exactly like what was shown in Jurassic Park. Many of them were smaller, had feathers, and we don't know how organized their hunting was. It's possible that some of them hunted alone. Others might temporarily group together when there's plenty of food. In the open plains, species that are good at long pursuits might have evolved, but we can't say for sure that they'll use a strategy like the African wild dog. It's even harder to predict the intelligence of dinosaurs. Some small theropods had large brain cavities compared to their body size. Some of these were once called troodontids, but scientists are still studying and revising their classification. A large brain cavity doesn't automatically mean they would be as intelligent as humans. The shape of the fossil skull is also not enough to determine if they were capable of deception, planning complex attacks, or using different tools. In 1982, the paleontologist Dale Russell created a model called the Dinosauroid. It is a hypothetical creature that could have evolved if the evolution of an intelligent theropod had continued. It stands upright like a human, but has reptile features. But many scientists criticized it because it assumes that high intelligence must result in a human-like body. That's not correct. Crows and parrots are intelligent, but they still look like birds. The octopus can use objects and solve simple problems, even though it has no bones and its body is very different from a human's. So if there ever was a smarter dinosaur, it would probably still look like a dinosaur. It might still have a tail, feathers, 2 legs, and hands that can grasp, but we don't know if it could develop tools, language, cities, or advanced technology. It's also not certain that evolution will lead to a creature like us. Human intelligence developed because of a very long series of changes. This includes primates living in trees, using hands to grasp, walking on 2 feet, cooperating in groups, caring for offspring, using tools, and continuously learning from others. If even one major part of that history were changed, the result could have been different. And in a world still controlled by large dinosaurs, mammals might not have gotten the space they needed to grow and spread. They might still survive at night in the trees and burrows, and in places that large dinosaurs couldn't reach. It's also possible for a mammal to develop that is good at grasping branches and has forward-facing eyes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that humans would definitely appear. Around 2 to 2.5 million years ago, more intense cycles of cold and warm periods began in the northern hemisphere. The large glaciers repeatedly expanded and shrank. Sea levels, rivers, forests, and animal habitats changed. In the real world, animals that were well adapted to the cold appeared like the woolly mammoth woolly rhinoceros and other thick-furred creatures. If dinosaurs were still alive, it's also possible that there would be species that could survive. In snowy and cold plains, there's a strong reason to believe this. A dinosaur fossil was found in the Prince Creek Formation in Alaska. Dinosaurs lived there at high latitudes where the darkness lasted long during winter and the climate was colder compared to many parts of the Cretaceous world. There is also evidence that there were young dinosaurs there, so it's possible they weren't just passing through. They may have lived and reproduced in the Arctic region all year round. It doesn't mean they lived in the same cold as modern Alaska. The world was warmer back then. But this shows that not all dinosaurs were limited to tropical climates. Many theropods also had feathers. Feathers could serve as insulation against the cold, just like in modern birds. It's possible that there could be thickly feathered predators hunting in the cold tundra. It's harder to know if large ceratopsians also had feather-like coverings. There is some evidence of bristle-like structures in their distant relatives, but it's not enough to say for sure that a future Triceratops would be feathered. They could have thick skin, fat, a smaller body surface, or other ways to retain heat. In this alternate present, the map of Earth is still familiar. To us, Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas are still there. The Himalayas, Amazon River, Sahara, and Pacific Ocean are still there. But the animals are very different. In Africa, there could be horned dinosaurs grazing on the vast grasslands. On the edge of the herd, there might be a feathered pteropod waiting for a weak or young animal. In South America, there might be dinosaur lineages that can't be found on other continents because the region has been separated for a long time. In Australia, there could be species as unique as the kangaroo and platypus in our world. In the sky, Birds and pterosaurs might still coexist. Small birds might be better suited to the forests, while large pterosaurs dominate the open land, coastlines, and oceans. In the sea, there could also be descendants of mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. But it's not correct to say that there will definitely be a mosasaur as big as a blue whale or a plesiosaur that eats krill. We don't have any direct evidence that can tell us what direction their evolution would take over 66 million years. Some might have grown larger. Some might have become smaller, and the whole group could also disappear because of changes in food, climate, disease, or competition. A world without humans wouldn't automatically be quieter or safer. There would still be volcanic eruptions, wildfires, earthquakes, droughts, diseases, and natural extinctions. Animals would still continue to fight for food and shelter, but there would be no cities, highways, factories, airplanes, or large ships crossing the oceans. There would also be no burning of massive amounts of coal, oil, and gas that was done by modern humans. So human-caused climate change wouldn't happen in the way we see it today. There would also be no hunting, pollution, deforestation, or introduction of invasive species that caused the disappearance of many animals in the real world. But we also can't say for sure that the biodiversity of the alternate Earth would be higher. Over millions of years, many natural disasters and extinction events could still happen. What's clear is that the direction would be very different. And this is where the most important point becomes clear. The emergence of humans is not predetermined. We are not the automatic end result of evolution. We came to be because of a series of events that happened in just the right way. One of the most important of these was the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. When many ecosystems were left vacant, mammals quickly multiplied and diversified. Over time, primates emerged. Then came the apes, the first human ancestors, and finally Homo sapiens. If the mass extinction hadn't happened, we might have remained small mammals hiding in the trees. Or there might not have been any species like us at all. So the asteroid didn't just end the age of the dinosaurs. By accident, it also paved the way for our emergence. But that doesn't mean the dinosaurs failed just because they didn't become humans. They ruled the Earth for over 160 million years. They adapted to forests, deserts, rivers, coastlines, and cold regions. And they didn't completely disappear either. The birds we see today are part of their living lineage. With every flight of the eagle, every run of the ostrich, and every call of a chicken, there remains a part of a world once ruled by dinosaurs. If the asteroid had missed, we might not be here to imagine that alternate world. There would be no humans to look at fossils, no scientists to study their bones, and no narrator to ask what would have happened. Life would simply go on. No cities, no humans, and no one to know that the entire history of Earth almost changed forever.